Lots of times parents are asked to choose between keeping the family fed and sheltered and sending their kids to school because the incomes are so low. One of the possibilities to get out of that with kids that are a little older, this wouldn't apply to very young kids, is to figure out ways where those kids outside of school can earn some money, not a living, not a lifelong career, but money that supplements the family's income. And so I have seen USAID programs in the Dominican Republic and Mali which do this in varying different circumstances. In Dominican Republic, it was an urban barrio slum. And there they were teaching these young adults skills such as sewing, hairdressing, manicure, mixing chemicals together to create household cleaning projects. And these young adults were then able to sell those to neighbors and friends and create incomes of $20, $40, $100 a month. That money could come back into the family, and then the parents weren't faced with that choice of send the kid to school or have them working or helping. In Mali, it was a rural setting, so there are some of the things that were taught had to do with agriculture, garden plots. In one case, it was about a small restaurant that they created for the village. And so, but it was the same basic result, that these were supplemental income. Some of these programs also have a little bit of a capital component. In other words, besides training the students, they have the money so that they might give the student the sewing machine or the initial load of chemicals to make the detergents. So it's sort of a very small equity contribution, to use business terms, to get it, to kickstart it, and from there the businesses become self-sustaining. There's a global report on education that periodically comes out, and they have added up all of the money that's needed to fully educate children in the 46 countries with the lowest incomes. If you take that amount of money and if you subtract everything that the governments are spending right now, if you subtract everything that the private sector is doing and donors are doing, there's a gap. $26 billion. That gap is roughly equal to 7 to 8 times what the donors are spending in those countries. So how do we get from here to there? And surely raising domestic resources is a big part of it, because there's no way, given world economic conditions, that donors are going to increase 8 times what they currently do in education. The most important thing that's required is political will by the countries themselves. Without that, it's impossible. But with it, huge successes are possible. Some of the countries need technical assistance to figure out how to get there. And it may not be what they call soft skills. It might be literally computer hardware in the customs department at the borders. So it's a mixture of forms of technical assistance, but sometimes the countries need to understand better some of the techniques of how to do it, or may need equipment and things like that. So those are things that donors can contribute in their own countries, because among the ways that these tax receipts causes of the tax receipts being insufficient is because profits are being moved around the globe, and there's not all the transparency necessarily in the creation of companies or in taxation collections and so forth. So it's not a topic that falls into traditional categories of developing countries, developed countries. It's not on any one to solve. We have to work together. And some of the most forceful advocates for this are people in developing countries. A minister in the Philippines was on a panel with me recently and talked about that the only way they can fulfill their president's election campaign promises is to raise more revenues. And they have gone after smuggling and better processes inside the equivalent of their Internal Revenue Service. Minister of Finance in Malawi talking about if they can raise more revenues, then they're less reliant on donors and they will be more predictable, they can plan better. So a whole host of people are really talking about this and trying to take steps to work on it.